When a narcissist realizes you're too strong to control, they resort to one final, desperate tactic. Carl Jung uncovered something chilling about narcissists, something most people never see until it's too late. When they can no longer manipulate you, they don't just back off. They launch one last psychological attack, one so subtle and destructive, it can undo years of emotional recovery in just weeks. And unless you see it coming, you might walk straight into their trap. But to understand this final trick, you first need to grasp the psychological warfare that builds up to it. According to Jung, the narcissist's deepest fear isn't being rejected or abandoned. It's the moment their target becomes mentally and emotionally stronger than them. Through his work on the shadow self, Jung revealed that narcissists survive by projecting their inner weakness onto others, because that illusion of dominance is all they have. But when you begin to heal, when you set boundaries and refuse to play along, something snaps in their mind. Jung called this turning point a power inversion crisis. And what happens next might shock you. You see, narcissists aren't really looking for love, they're looking for control. They're drawn to people whose energy they can drain, whose emotions they can manipulate for their own gain. Carl Jung revealed that these individuals operate from what he called an inflated ego, a fragile psychological state, where they must constantly assert dominance to avoid facing the void within themselves. When you were lost, insecure, or craving their approval, you fit perfectly into their world. You were their emotional fuel, their source of validation. But everything changes the moment you reclaim your power. When you stop looking to them for approval and start trusting your own inner voice, you don't just break free, you become a threat, a mirror to their emptiness. That's when they reach for the most dangerous weapon in their arsenal, the one Jung warned us about. It's called psychological projection warfare, and when they feel control slipping from their hands, this is their go-to attack. At this stage, they don't just gaslight you or play the victim anymore. They escalate. Carl Jung described it as a direct assault on your individuation, your journey of becoming your true, independent self. And here's where it gets truly dangerous. They begin attacking the very strength you've worked so hard to build. Remember how they used to belittle your weaknesses? Now they flip the script. Suddenly, your strength becomes the new target. Jung explained that this happens because they know your personal growth is the one thing standing between them and complete control over you. So, they start saying things like, greater than, you've changed, and not in a good way. You used to be kind. Now you're just cold and selfish. Success has gone to your head. Oh, so now you think you're better than everyone. But here's the chilling part Jung uncovered. This isn't just random criticism. It's calculated. They are deliberately attacking the very parts of you that you fought hardest to heal, the parts of you that symbolize freedom, self-worth, and growth. If you've learned how to set boundaries, they'll label you as cold. If you found your voice, they'll call you aggressive. If you've built real confidence, they'll accuse you of being arrogant. Jung referred to this as strength shamming, a manipulation tactic designed to make you feel guilty about the very qualities that set you free. But the worst trick is still ahead. Carl Jung found that, when strength shamming fails, narcissists often resort to a far more subtle and insidious tactic, nostalgic manipulation. That's when they start romanticizing the past, specifically, the version of you that was easier to control. They'll say things like, greater than, remember when you used to laugh at my jokes? You were so much happier before all those self-help books. I miss the old you. Things were so good between us, before you changed. But make no mistake, Jung called this psychical time travel for a reason. It's not about love. It's not about missing the real you. It's about luring you back into a version of yourself that was easier to manipulate. They don't miss you. They miss the you they could control. And if you're not careful, you'll start missing that old version of yourself too. The one who was easier, quieter, more agreeable. But this is exactly where Jung's findings take a darker turn. When strength shamming doesn't work, when nostalgic manipulation fails, narcissists reach for their most dangerous weapon of all, manufactured vulnerability. Carl Jung observed that narcissists are incredibly skilled at identifying your deepest sources of compassion and turning them into tools of manipulation. Suddenly, they appear broken, lost, going through something, right at the very moment you begin standing in your full power. This is the final dirty trick Jung warned us about. And it's more sinister than it seems. They'll fabricate a crisis, a health scare, a financial emergency, family conflict, or an emotional meltdown, and they'll time it perfectly to interrupt your growth. Jung made it clear, this isn't a coincidence. It's precision manipulation, because narcissists keep mental records of what makes you feel responsible, what triggers your inner caretaker, what guilt will make you let your guard down. They weaponize your empathy and use it to drag you back into the very cycle you fought so hard to escape. And here's the part that will make you question everything you thought you knew about them. Carl Jung found that narcissists often create the very crises they later ask you to fix. They'll sabotage their own relationships, ruin their work situation, neglect their health, just to manufacture a problem that puts you in the position of rescuer. According to Jung's research, this manipulation serves two critical purposes. 1. It pulls you back into the role of the caretaker. 2. It reassures them that they still have control over you. But what Jung uncovered next is even more disturbing. It's not just about getting your help. It's about making you sacrifice your power to give it to them. Jung observed that narcissists will deliberately target the exact boundaries and values you've worked the hardest to protect. They'll say things like, greater than, I know you don't usually lend money, but this is different. I get that you need space, but I really need you right now. It's not just a request, it's a test. They're not asking for support. They're trying to pull you back into the old version of yourself, the one who gives in, overextends, and forgets their own worth. I know you're trying to focus on yourself, but couldn't you just help me this one time? According to Carl Jung, just this once, is a carefully calculated move, designed to chip away at the psychological walls you fought so hard to build. They're not really asking for help. They're asking you to prove that they still matter more than your own well-being. And if you give in, Jung warned, you risk losing everything you've worked for. Because here's the truly dangerous part about manufactured vulnerability. It feels real. It looks real. The narcissist might actually be in crisis. But Jung discovered they're masters at choosing which crisis to show you, and exactly when to show it. They have other options, other people, other resources. But they come to you, because deep down, they know you're the most likely to abandon your own boundaries to save them. So the question is, how do you protect yourself from this final manipulation? Carl Jung believed that the key to protecting yourself lies in something he called differentiated compassion. You can care about someone's pain without taking responsibility for fixing it. Empathy doesn't mean self-abandonment. And as Jung famously said, greater than, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So when a narcissist tries to drag you back into old patterns, even through crisis, you have to ask yourself, greater than, is helping them bringing me closer to who I truly am, or is it pulling me further away from that journey? And now, here's Jung's final, most transformative insight about narcissists. They don't fear your anger. They don't fear your distance. They fear your strength, because it reflects the very growth they've rejected in themselves. When you refuse to dim your light to make them feel powerful, you're not just drawing a line, you're showing them what's possible. When someone chooses authenticity over approval, growth over control, and truth over illusion, and that's exactly why they fight so hard to pull you back down. But here's what Carl Jung wants you to remember. Every time you resist their manipulation, every time you hold your boundaries, no matter how convincing their crisis seems, you're not just protecting your peace, you're proving something far more powerful, that their control over you was never real. It was always an illusion. Jung taught that true strength isn't about being untouchable. It's about seeing manipulation for what it is, calling it by name, and choosing to stay true to yourself anyway. Because in the end, their desperation to control you is really just proof of how powerful you've already become. The narcissist's final dirty trick only works if you forget who you are. But the moment you recognize it for what it is, a last, desperate grasp at power, you'll see the truth. Their need to manipulate you is the clearest sign that you are finally free. As Carl Jung discovered, the moment you stop being controllable is the moment you truly begin to live. And no manufactured crisis, no matter how emotional or urgent it seems, is ever worth trading that freedom away. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Jung's insights. If today's message resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your healing, your clarity, and your strength, it all matters. Until next time, stay true to who you are.